There's a famous quote by former CEO of Procter & Gamble. They said, like, if we have one of the 20 great engineers in-house, there's probably 200 as good or not better than them that are outside of our four walls. We are a corporate innovation management firm. We help large organizations in their innovation efforts. So that could be anything from helping set up their innovation strategy to actually help them run open innovation program. There is a big misconception when it comes to innovation is that many corporate think that innovation is this just cool word just for branding. It's not just, it's not a theater or anything. It's more like
Welcome to the DevReady podcast, where we're helping non-techs build great tech. Today we're joined by Spiro, who has a man of many hats, part of StartMate in terms of supporting startups, interested in angel investing, participating in mentoring programs, part of corporate innovation and a group called The Bakery. But I'll let him dig in a little bit more and just have a general chat today around innovation, corporate, startup, and all things in between. Spiro, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Andrew, for the invite. That's really a pleasure to be there.
Really good to connect. So tell us a bit about you. Let's dig in your background and how, obviously, a bit of an accent over in Perth, how you ended up in Perth in Australia.
Yes. So I'll start maybe by background and I can give an introduction about what I do at the moment. So I came to Australia around 4 years ago now. I'm originally from Lebanon. And then I decided, so actually it's a funny story. I originally wanted to become a physiotherapist. And then, because I was quite, very different from what I do now.
The innovation, yes.
Yes. So I wanted to do a physiotherapist, but then it happened that I didn't get accepted to the university that I wanted to back home. And then my mom just thought, oh yeah, why don't you go to Australia? We have family there. Why don't you just go? And I was like, yeah, okay, why not? And I was like,
jump on a plane.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, I applied for universities. It was actually during COVID. So it was like, just before COVID happened, like end of 2019, and then at the start of 2020. And I was like, okay, let me apply for a couple of universities. I got accepted to Curtin University here in Perth. And I was like, okay, let's apply. I applied for my visa, got my visa and so on. So from there, I started my actually studies online. For like a year and a half, I was studying, Perth times being in Lebanon. It was quite tough as well.
It would have been, a very different time zone.
Because they were not quite advanced yet when it comes to, on recordings and all this stuff. It was quite, it was just peak COVID. So it was kind of just to start and test trialing with us what the online recording are and so on. So it was quite an experience, I would say. But then a year and a half later, I actually landed in Melbourne first. It was actually one of the first planes that comes to Australia after COVID. It was on the 16th of December, 2021. Because Perth, you probably know, like they were the last
Perth
people on Earth.
Everything, yeah, they locked everything.
Yes, I do know. The borders.
Yes,
yeah.
They didn't let anyone in.
Exactly. So I stayed like a couple of months in Melbourne because I also have family there. So they were supporting me and so on. And then after that, came to Perth, continued my studies, and then started my career more onto the management and technology consulting. So it was more, I acted a lot as a business analyst or a product owner for a few, AI solutions or even small, mobile solutions for big corporates. And then not from there, I would say like even before I joined university, I always had this kind of enjoyment or love for startups, innovation, and dynamic ecosystems where there's always never-ending change and never-ending excitement, I would say. So from there, we started at Visagio. We had this kind of business unit called Vici Ventures, which essentially was there to support startups from a mentoring perspective, kind of matchmaking corporate leaders with startups that are building solutions for corporates, but as well, how can we help corporate in innovating through the broader innovation ecosystem. Startups is one of them, but also universities, researchers, and so on.
Yeah, different angles there.
Yeah,
different
exactly.
Opportunities. So the R&D side of things as well opens up, especially when you go to university angles. 100%. It makes it a lot easier.
And especially when it comes to, industries like mining or health, like where heavy research and development is required. It's not just, software and so on. So
there's more hardware components and different things that get set up, which open up lots of opportunity, especially with university side.
100%. So, and then this is bringing me to what I do now. So at the moment, I wear 3 different hats. So I have my first hat, which is the bakery. So the way the bakery was formed in Australia, we are a joint venture between Visagio Australia and the Bakery Global. So we're starting the bakery operations in Australia. So to tell you a bit more about the bakery itself, so we are a corporate innovation management firm. So we help large organization innovate, help them in their innovation efforts. So that could be anything from helping set up their innovation strategy to actually help them run open innovation program, anything corporate venturing, like corporate venture, even set up corporate venture capital for them, challenges, accelerator programs, incubator programs, venture studios, and so on. So we kind of give this whole range of services for our corporate clients and help them with their innovation efforts.
Tell us a little about that in terms of what does that look like from a corporate perspective? I was working in Oz in tech for a long time. I find corporates can sometimes want to start to hit the button on innovation, but then it gets to business as usual pretty quickly, especially after, 6 months, 12 months, it can fizzle off pretty quickly. What is something like working with the bakery support a corporate in?
So that's a very good question. So one thing I'll tell you a bit more of the story of open innovation itself. Look, how did it come up to this? So I wouldn't say it's the origin, but there was so the concept of open innovation is more like when a company acknowledges that they don't have all the best people in-house and they are willing to get innovation from outside in. So kind of saying that, so there's a famous quote by this former CEO of Procter & Gamble. They said, like, if we have 20 great engineers in-house, there's probably 200 as good or not better than them that are outside of our four walls. And this concept kind of, acknowledging that, okay, we are not the best at everything, but, how can we ensure that we are not being disrupted by all this, new innovation that is coming in and so on? Because there's, I think, a very famous stat that I think 70% of the companies that were on the S&P 500 60 years ago, 70% are different today. So it's kind of this constant disruption,
And they change a lot more quicker now.
Exactly.
I think the average, some stats, average time was about 50 years, but now it's lucky if it's 10.
Yeah, exactly.
S&P, it's just evolving, and that shows you this rate of innovation.
Exactly, rate of innovation is super fast. So kind of answering your question about like how can we help corporate themselves. So for example, depending on the maturity, because you have many different corporate at different maturity stages. So when it comes to corporate with very early maturity, we can come in and then we usually come in on a very senior level, like on a C level or very VP level, like very high level, to help them set up their strategy of innovation. Of course, we don't. Well, the thing is that many corporate have misinterpretation is that it's only just innovation outside. We're not trying to replace the internal R&D or the internal innovation team. It's more how can we amplify it and how can we combine all this innovation effort to create a proper innovation engine. So for a corporate that is not very mature when it comes to their innovation, so we can come in, understand, so help them better put together a proper innovation strategy. And then something that I want to mention here as well, so sorry to kind of keep interrupting that, is that there is a big thing around innovation being a buzzword. And I would say it is a buzzword, and it's like a very massive word. In saying that, there's a very
can mean so much, can't it?
Exactly.
And I think innovation is seen as probably this big thing, but finite, incremental improvement, it can still be innovation.
100%.
And still make a big difference especially in a corporate environment.
100% that. It's exactly that. And then when it comes to there is a big misconception when it comes to innovation is that many corporate think that innovation is this just cool word, or this we're doing innovation theater just for branding and marketing and so on. But in many other places around the world where the innovation is very mature, it's not just it's not a theater or anything. It's more like a strategy for growth. So we're using innovation or open innovation to actually grow and actually secure a bigger market, compete with our competitors, and grow overall. And it's not just we're doing this cool accelerator program just to sound good on LinkedIn or whatever. It's more like it's actually something that they use to grow their business and grow their revenue, customer base, and market, and so on.
I think it's important. I've been around corporate technology delivering different solutions in the space, and I won't name names, but one of the specific innovation programs within the corporate was one of their KPIs was how many workshops are we running a month. around ideation. Okay, that's not really innovation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just the workshop.
Theater, right?
What outcome does that deliver? So I was quite fascinated. This was going back 10 years now, but I sort of shook my head and said, what value are they delivering? And it wasn't much. There was clearly not much coming from that. So sitting in a room, running a workshop around ideas is not executing anything. Innovation, you have to execute something.
Exactly.
And target deliver for growth, yes, that's setting the groundwork of we're doing something to actually impact the business, the
Exactly.
customer, the industry.
And even it doesn't have to be like, straight away, because like as you mentioned, like there's many different horizons of innovation. There's this kind of incremental innovation that's kind of on the for the day-to-day business, and improving the current core delivery of the business. But then there's Horizon 2, which is a bit more core innovation and it's kind of expanding new markets or inventing new technologies that is a little bit further from the core. And then there's this radical innovation which comes at Horizon 3, where you're talking about completely new invention or completely new market, like for example Airbnb creating the new market of renting your own house, or Netflix creating the new market of watching at home or whatever, like this kind of
And
radical
generally,
innovation.
corporates are not set up for Horizon 3. Generally not.
That's true.
1, yes. 2, maybe
Kind of.
3. Probably too hard. It's
Exactly.
like it's too hard to rip up the business model completely, and change it and change the way they
100% that.
operate. Yeah.
100% that. And this is where we kind of come in many cases. So we help the corporate tackle the kind of Horizon 2 and Horizon 3, while not changing too much about what they're already doing, for example, when it comes to Horizon 1 and Horizon 2. So we kind of, okay, they're doing business as usual, but then there is this different core innovation team that is helping, for example, understanding what are the different trends that are happening around the market. So we kind of set up a trend radar team to understand what are the different trends in all the different, countries around the world, what are the different technologies that are coming in that could eventually disrupt them, or what are, like all these things. And then we even, set up many different programs. Of course, accelerator program and incubator programs are the most famous ones, but there is this concept called the venture client unit, is that when the corporate become the client of the startup. And when I'm talking about startup, I don't mean like a startup that has been there for just 1 year or 2 years and they're just living in the garage. I'm talking like, established startups with like, proper customers and proper, product market fit and so on. But, it's more like on the growth stage.
It's almost going to scale up.
Exactly that. Exactly that. And then how can, because like in a sense that not all corporates will have the solution for everything, right? So it's kind of how can you become a client of a very fast growing company and a very innovative company and kind of get access to innovation without actually the need to buy the company. So you don't have to spend too much money. And it's at the same time, you don't have to acquire, you don't have to create a proper program. It's more like like how can you make access to innovation as fast as possible? So kind of a fast track procurement, considering that, procurement in big corporates as well is quite a tough process. Yeah, exactly.
That's a challenge of corporates, right? It's a slow moving, lots of red tape, lots of acceptance along the journey. So how do you leapfrog that? And this is where some of these different thinking and strategies can
100%.
actually help leapfrog that by making a directive to say, yes, we're going to engage innovation. Maybe we tick off the corporate client access venture piece and we will approve a few things a bit more easier.
Exactly.
And there's 3 steps to jump through rather than 17. So yeah, 100%. That is needed. Otherwise it becomes way too difficult.
Yes. It becomes like and like especially on a startup scale, in many cases, you cannot afford to wait that many years to actually get a proper big contract. So you kind of want something that is, that fits your purpose, but at the same time, of course, like we always kind of put this pressure on corporate to move fast and so on. But I would say, like from my personal perspective, like I see in many cases that the startups as well don't always understand how to work with corporates, and I think this is a big piece as well. Like there's a bit of education on both ends that needs to happen. Like of course, teaching corporate as well how to move faster or so on, or setting up different processes to actually enable this. More agile way, I would say, of doing things, but at the same time teaching the startups on, there's a reason why, the corporate are moving slow, right? Like it's not just because they wanna against you or something like that. That's more like there's a reason for it. Doesn't mean it's
all right risk management. That's all
exactly.
It is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
and teaching them how to navigate that as well.
Yeah. corporate's challenging, right? So
It
a
is.
decision can be someone's job. That's why it's a
Exactly.
big risk problem. So how do you manage it? How do you ensure there's multiple stakeholders buying into something? Otherwise,
Exactly.
it's just nigh on impossible. And are you speaking to the right people in the corporate that can actually make a decision or
Exactly.
collective decision or take it to a board that needs to? Yeah, it's more finding your feet within a corporate. I found in terms of who's who and who really can make some decisions. And
100%.
generally, it's not one person. Generally, it's
Oh
a
yeah.
collective
It's
that will make a
collective people.
decision.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So a fascinating space to work in. What have you found working with corporates and innovation?
Uh, so one thing I can talk about more about, because like the bakery itself has been running for
Yes.
over a decade now outside Australia. I mean,
Yes.
we've run many projects, within Australia as well before, but as official offices, we just started kind of this year, I would say. But I would say
That's early.
I can talk about, yeah, a bit of differences between the way corporate innovation or open innovation itself is, or corporate venturing as a whole is
Let's
kind of
let's just
different.
talk about open innovation. What does that actually mean? Is it open? There's coin around open strategy and how we bring in outside entities and different companies to actually help us with innovation. I'm assuming it's the same in
Yes.
innovation space. So it's
So
how do we bring
it's
other parties to the
it's
table?
it's
Yeah.
exactly that. So the concept of open
Yes.
innovation kind of I think it was first mentioned by a professor at the University of Berkeley called Henry Chesbrough, and then the
Okay.
concept behind I'm not don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if he's there, it's professor there, but I'm pretty sure that's the name. So he kind
That's
of
okay.
started this concept of open innovation in regards to like you don't always have the best talent in house. Of course, you have great talent, but you don't always have them in house. And the
Yeah.
concept of open innovation is more like how can we use the innovation ecosystem overall. So we could talk about startups, we could talk about universities, researchers, universities, and so on, to help solve our problems. So I think Procter and Gamble does that pretty well. I think that there's many different companies that does well. Like just Procter and Gamble, just because it's on top of my head, is that, for example, like they are facing a challenge, wherever developing a new chemical solution or a new product and so on. So instead of doing all the R&D in house, they would actually go outside and check for someone who's already solved that, and then figure out a way to complement each other or kind of connect with each other, either becoming client or whatever, acquire them, invest in them, or like whatever that thing is more like how can we actually get access to innovation without doing all the research and development ourselves. So that's kind of like a very brief description
It's
of
obviously speeds up the process
oh yeah,
clearly,
100%.
de-risks it well, so it does make a lot of sense in
and
terms
and
of how
that's
you
and
might
that's the
frame it.
thing. So we're saying that it de-risk it a lot, when it is common sense, but in many cases there is this massive misconception that, oh, we're doing it with a so-called startup just because they call themselves startup, that, oh, we're dealing, so that might be super risky and so on.
Increase
But
the
it's,
risk,
yeah,
yeah.
but it's actually
Okay.
the exact opposite. Like it's more like you're already dealing with someone that has already a product that's already found product market fit, that's already kind of already have customers, already a proper running business, and you're not even investing this 2 years of time of doing research and development, and you
Yeah,
kind of
there's a
are
big cost to
outsourcing
that.
that. Exactly. And you kind of,
Yeah.
it's much more de-risk than actually doing it
Okay.
yourself.
Yep, makes sense. In terms of in the model, the bakery, is it also? I'm not sure what the framework it looks like or how it's described. Where innovation or corporate has a problem and then they put it out to market, they start to bring in potentially different startup groups around it, and that's that corporate venture sort of model. What does that look like in the concept and the structure of the bakery?
So that's a very good question,
Yeah.
because there is many different models, I would say, of how can a company apply
Yes.
open innovation to their businesses. So one of them that you just mentioned about is the kind of open innovation challenges. So this is kind of a more traditional way of getting core from startups. So let's say I'm a big mining company or whatever type of company. I have a problem in decarbonization. Let's say it's a very big topic at the moment. So I come in, and then we, as the baker, we come in, we kind of deep dive into the problem, we kind of divide it into a different problem statement, because decarbonization itself is a massive word, right? Like there is many
Definitely.
different
Big
aspects to
topic.
it. Exactly.
Yes.
So there's many
Yeah.
different aspects to it, and many different ways of solving that, or many different problem statement within decarbonization. So where we come in as the bakery, for example, in that particular case, we come in for the corporate client. we kind of do a massive internal analysis of, okay, what's happening inside, what are the different problem, and we kind of divide the problem into specific problem statements. Once we do that, one way of doing it is, open innovation calls or open innovation challenges. So we have this problem statement. We go kind of outside the corporate and say, okay, we have this particular problem, and we are looking for solutions that are solving this type of problem. And we kind of have, like a proper definition of the problem, proper description of everything that's happening. And then startups would come in, or it doesn't have to be just startup, like especially, for example, in mining tech or health tech or things that requires innovation.
Could be supplied to the space.
Exactly.
Yeah, it could be
hardware and so on.
Expertise. Yeah, of course.
100%. So they come in and then they apply for that. And then what we would be doing in the background is that, okay, we are kind of assessing all the different solutions. We are running all this demo night or demo days for that. And then, of course, that's with the client themselves to kind of get to the best solution that can eventually become, a client or become, a customer of like whatever the deal would end up working at. And then, so that we'll be doing on the back end. But then where we help as well is that because there is a massive thing called, I would say, more the proof of concept graveyard, because there is lots of, all of these corporate that, okay, we're doing innovation and so on, but and we're getting all these startups from all around the world and doing all the stuff and so on. But then, okay, but there is this, okay, we're doing a proof of concept, but then everything dies then, and nothing actually gets implemented. We don't see this massive value. So this is where we help as well.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So integrating
the gap between, we have a proof of concept now, how do we actually scale this and make this a product offering or put this into the operation? And that's a more difficult task than generally the proof of concept.
It is a much more difficult task because you kind of need to understand both worlds, like the startup world and how they operate, what the agility and so on. But at the same time, you need to understand the corporate world and all the politics and all the things that happen in the corporate. So we help them as well with that process. So coming back to the to the question. So one of them is corporate, the open innovation challenges. The other thing is that what we do is incubators, for example. And all of them will have. So there's a very big thing is that many questions that we get asked is that what is the best model for me? It's more like each model would fit a different purpose, and each model would have a different kind of goal. And then
would you likely be running multiple models? I assume
exactly
so. I think picking one is not the answer.
That's 100% that.
You're probably engaging with all various different models to get the outcome.
It's 100% that. It's like usually when you see the corporate that are the succeeding the most when it comes to their innovation or innovation strategy, is it's the companies that are applying all the different models like hybrid. They become they have a corporate venture capital that feeds into their corporate accelerator, where they get startups from their corporate incubators, and then they have their corporate venture clienting unit where they eventually these startups from all these three would become clients for the corporate through that. So it's kind of having this hybrid model of
acquisition models. There's a lot in there,
everything. Right? It's exactly that. So how can you have this massive ecosystem of programs that will eventually help you with all of your strategy. Of course, you don't, especially when it comes to budget constraint and all this stuff, you cannot start with doing everything at the same time. It's just like having this strategy of this is what we're doing now, this is what we're doing, this is how it's going to bring direct value to what we're paying, and then from there how we can grow from that and get more value and so on to eventually become more mature, I would say.
Now, if anyone out there is listening in the world of startup, business suppliers to this sort of world, how do they engage and get access to corporate innovation strategies and opportunities? Because it could be probably a little bit difficult to find these opportunities that are out there and what corporates are doing. What's some angles that people could look at and that could support either their startup or their service business that they have? What could it look like?
That's a very good question, because I've seen a lot of startups. Because many startups are building, of course, there's the direct to consumer or B2C market, but there is a massive
tough market.
It's
a tough market.
It is a tough market.
Yeah.
And there's, this massive market of, like people applying for solving problem for corporates, but then they never get to talk with corporates, and then they end up building a
And then
cool
what are you
solution.
solving? Nothing
Exactly,
at all.
exactly.
Yes.
It's like they end
Yeah.
up building a super cool solution that is like amazing tech, and this after this how many years of PhD and all the stuff, that's just amazing tech. But that's like, where's the problem? Like, who are you solving it for? And then there's this big gap of, okay, when I'm building a solution for big corporates, like how can I get access to these corporates? And then a very how say, like many of these big corporates, like let's say we're building a software for big companies, and then let's say Atlassian could be a client of mine, or Google could be a client of mine. There's a very so instead of and let's say the startup, I'm the startup and I'm raising capital. So for example, I'm not giving like an advice here, but it's more like how you could think about it is more like, okay, I have this this product that Google could eventually be the client of mine. Why should I raise capital from whatever VC if I could actually raise capital from Google Ventures? And then in that case, it's more like you're thinking about who's on your cap table, who's investing, and what's the strategic value that they're bringing. Because of course you can get money from everywhere around the world, right? But you cannot get the connections from everywhere around the world. Like if you're getting, if you're investing in all of these, if you're getting invested by all of your potential customer, usually your chances of actually getting them as
It's
customer,
a lot higher,
yeah,
yes. Of course, yeah. Yeah, they're going to want to introduce you in, and
exactly.
then you're actually going to be working with people in the company that actually nurture your product and guide it in a direction that's going to add value to the company, not what you think's going to add, because that's the hard part, yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting sort of take on what might be available to startups and ways to think about what they're doing in the space and how they can add value to corporates, because everyone wants to go after corporate, but yeah, a lot of people don't understand the buying cycle and the challenges in corporate. You could
Exactly.
spend 24 months and have no customers. That's a possibility. So how do you drive that
Yeah.
product or that business in that market?
And one thing that we have, I think I've touched base a bit on that as well, is that in many cases we blame the corporate of being slow and so on and so on. But I see that, yes, they are slow, but that's for a reason, right? Whatever the reason is, there is a reason for that. At the same time, we always blame them for being slow, but we never, get to teach the startup or help the startup navigate the corporate world. Like, of course, they need to stay agile and so on. Like, it's not, I'm not asking anybody to stop being agile or anything like that. It's more like, how can we help them navigate, or how can we mentor them throughout the way, and get eventually understand the corporate world, how they should navigate the things to actually get a big, because corporate deals are not like $100,000 deal. It's more like like a 1 million, 2 million, 4 million, $5 million deals that could like get a runway for the startup for I don't know how many years. So it's more like, how can we help them navigate through
Those
that?
types of revenue deals can change the landscape. Maybe you
Exactly.
don't have to raise as much all of a sudden.
100%.
Impacts the whole trajectory of the business.
100% that.
Now, I cut you off. You're talking about 3 hats, and I know number
Yes.
2 is going to be about StartMate, which is related in some capacity, more at the startup level, of course. Tell us about your startup mentorship in StartMate, and what have you been doing with StartMate, and what value you see in that program.
For sure. So at StartMate, I kind of started my journey in StartMate through a course called their First Believers course. So it's kind of, this course is intended for people who are interested in becoming angel investor, or the first believer in a startup. So I started kind of my journey. I applied for this course, and it was I would say like a 7-8 week course, and we have like a 2 day in person in Sydney to kind of walk us through all the different theory or kind of models of, okay, what is a good what is a good way of investing? What are the different frameworks that successful angel investor or successful VCs look at when it comes to investing in different startups? So kind of we go through this kind of theory, and then after that we actually get to something that I loved about this program, is that it's actually you kind of get to apply all this theory. So we kind of, throughout their accelerator programs, we kind of go there and actually be part of the selection process and so on. So it's probably literally the best theory to application course that I've ever taken in my life, which I really, really,
That's a
really love
positive
it.
take.
Yeah,
Because
it
a
was
lot
really
of
awesome.
programs are just lots of theory, and then how do you
And you
actually
just like, I don't
implement?
care. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like I could
yeah,
just have looked at it on YouTube. But like when you
yeah. I
actually get to
understand.
apply all this theory, it's more like, okay, well, that's actually really valuable. And then from there, after doing this course, and then I fell in love with the community itself and started as well. Like everyone is kind of, everyone is encouraging, and everyone wants to, wants the best out of the things, and just very pro innovation, pro risk taking, pro, a proper venture
Complete
capital.
opposite to corporates. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, exactly. And then I was like, okay, that's awesome. And like they had like, many different mentoring spots for, there are many different programs that they run, like accelerator programs, launch club, or like, other many different programs. So I took part actually of the mentoring for the launch club, which was quite interesting. Like lots of, lots of ideas coming from, students, or even pretty much anyone, I would say. Like, and then they start, like I think it's an 8-week program where they go through, like mentoring and helping them, okay, how to set all the stuff, how to acquire your first customer, how to do all the stuff. And then we as mentors, come in and support them, through the question that they have, in terms of business model, growth, or pretty much anything that they have questions for. And like it's pretty good, I would say. Like it's quite enjoyed it. I think today was the last day of the club, but yeah, I'll be definitely looking forward to, doing another one soon.
As a part of being around the space for a little while, both in corporate innovation and in startup innovation, what's some critical things that you found that have helped a startup go from the leap from talking about working with a corporate to actually working with a corporate? What's some of those critical things that you've noticed that's made an impact?
I think so. There's two things. So when it comes to corporate don't usually wanna. So that's a good question, because like corporates, yes, they want access to innovation, but we have to understand that they don't want access to very risky innovation. So they're not gonna just come in to a startup that doesn't have any users or doesn't have anything, and they just go in and invest, or becoming their customers. So one thing that I've seen in a trend that I've seen actually corporate you go for is that, okay, like many corporates would actually go in and do a contract with a startup that has already customers. So kind of from a startup perspective, and that regardless of corporate or not, I would say like the best thing you could do is get to market as fast as possible, to actually get your product market fit as fast as possible as well, and kind of get your product, even though it's like they always say like you know like uh, don't wait until your product is perfect and so on, but it's actually true. Like if you don't have to wait for your product until it's very perfect or very amazing and all the aspect without talking to any customers.
No such thing as perfect,
Yeah,
especially in
exactly.
tech. It's impossible.
100%.
What perfect actually means, if you think about it, is nothing will ever change. It's just the way it is, and it'll stay that way for the next indefinitely,
Yes,
effectively. That's what perfect means, and that's not reality of anything. So,
especially in tech,
um,
as we were
yeah, it's
discussing
going
at
to
the
change
start. Yeah,
tomorrow.
exactly.
That's the real reality. It's can you add value today? Then you've got something.
100% that.
Is
It's like when
yeah,
you can add value, it's like that's a great place to be,
that's
kind of
enough.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, correct. Okay, so get to the point of adding value, find customers as quickly as possible, de-risk it for the start for the corporate.
yeah,
That's what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's good advice in terms of
Yeah,
how you might actually start to access some bigger accounts. Um, they want to look at who you're working with, and it's like anything. It's how long you've been around, who are you working with, is it
exactly.
tech
Like
proven?
your track
Yeah,
record kind of thing. Because like
no.
like imagine you're selling a product to a corporate, and then you eventually go to the procurement process, and the procurement say, "Oh, why are you guys investing in these guys that have two customers? And then
Mm,
why not go with these guys that have like 100 customers, and they have been
yes,
around for whatever 3 years with already an established business kind of thing. Of
and
course,
that's
there's always this
procurement's
risk.
job,
Exactly,
and
right?
that's not something. If you're selling to a small medium business, they're not doing that level of granular
No,
investigation either.
no, they just do it.
So that's the difference, right? So
Exactly,
there's one person making a decision. There's not a process of decision making. So it's
exactly.
difficult, very different.
Yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, exactly. And I think I can touch base now on my third head, which kind of ties back onto everything else as well. So one thing we're doing, we started, I'd say, at the last yeah at the end of last year, is the corporate innovation series. So there, I'm kind of one of the founding member, and actually, helping grow the community. So the corporate innovation series, the intention behind it is to actually help grow the community of corporate innovators in Australia, because something that we found, like in Australia, like after being there for a bit of time here, is that we're like in Australia, there is this we are very good when it comes to research. Like our innovation input is great from a global perspective, but then our innovation output is not as good as that. In a sense that I think we rank 16 on the innovation input on a global perspective, but then we rank 30 something on the innovation output. So kind of commercializing all this amazing research or this amazing tech that we're doing.
What do you think that is? Is it just down to risk adverse again? Is
Yeah,
that really the answer to that?
I think that's one of them.
Or is
I
there
think
more to it?
yeah, I think there is more to it. Like my perspective is that, of course, being risk averse is definitely there. But I think, for example, from a from I'm gonna wear my hat of corporate innovation as well here, is that there's not enough education around how to do proper corporate innovation and what are the different models of practicing corporate innovation. Like universities don't teach that. I would Let me kind of rephrase. Not all universities. Like, it's very rare to find a course that talks about open innovation or corporate venturing or how to run a corporate accelerator and so on and so on. It's very rare to find that here. And therefore, this means like, okay, if we're not teaching the workforce how to do all this stuff, how are we expecting the corporates to do all the things? So if you compare that to, for example, the US or UK or Germany, you can see all this, courses being around for, I think, for the last 10 years, and teaching all the new workforce of, okay, this is how you run all the stuff. This is what the different models, different frameworks. Because of course we talk about innovation, and like there is this misconception about innovation being this kind of messy area, or just creativity, people just whiteboarding and stuff. But of course there's aspect to that, but like it's really really following a framework of innovation to actually get something, and you got actually get value out of this innovation. It's not just we just put 10 people in a room with a whiteboard and then they gonna generate like $5 million in value. It doesn't work like that. It's more like there's really proper processes and proper framework that needs to be followed to actually get like a repeatable process of innovation and repeated process of generating value to the company. So of course risk averse is one, but I think there is a big lack of education around that. And with the corporate innovation series is that we're trying to create this ecosystem or community, I would say, of corporate innovators around Australia, that we're bringing people from all around the world that are successful people from in the corporate innovation space, get them to Australia to share about their experience and say, okay, like this is how we're doing the things there, this is how we're doing that, and so on, to actually get them to empower the people in Australia, or the leaders in Australia, to take these steps to get they have this connection that they could reach out to help them in their process. And kind of mentioning that, so what we are doing with the corporate innovation series is that throughout the year we run many different roundtables. So we run, corporate innovation roundtable focusing on mining technology or mining companies, how they're doing all the stuff, or something specific into the health industry, or something specific into, just teaching the concept of corporate innovation and corporate venturing, the kind of corporate venturing 101, what are the different concepts and so on. And then at the end of the year in December, I think it's on the 10th of December, we're having the Corporate Innovation Summit as part of the West in Australia. It's like a satellite event, and we're bringing people from all around the world, from global companies, and to come in and have a one-day full-on conference about corporate innovation, best practices, what people have done and succeeded, and so on. So kind of we can grow this community here in Australia.
Just based on what you just said, I've been around corporates that have probably lacked structure and trying to work it out on the fly, and they've got someone sitting there trying to bring together a bit of a framework, and then trying to educate a framework up. And I think it's quite difficult if probably all stakeholders within a corporate aren't really privy to what's working in the space or what could work. And then innovation is a long-term game. It's a never-ending thing.
It is.
Reality, and getting corporates to buy into that long-term vision and strategy. It's a 10-year, 20-year exercise. It's not 6 months. I think that's some of the critical things that people need to think about. We always need to evolve. Horizon 1, 2, and potentially 3. So it's critical that we're always engaging in some form of evolution, process improvement within a business framework, or we're getting left behind. That's just the reality.
Exactly that. Like it's like, if you don't know what's out there, how would you trust what
Yes.
what can we do and how we could do it work. So it's kind of this piece of, like educating everyone what has been out there and has been working for a long time, and this, how you could do it for yourself or for the company that you're working for.
Thank you, Spiro. I appreciate you jumping on the DevReady podcast today to talk about corporate
No, for sure.
innovation, StartMate, and everything in between. If anyone is out there listening, wants to learn more about the bakery, how they can engage in corporate innovation, these sort of worlds, how do they reach out and get in contact?
No, for sure. You can reach out to me like on my LinkedIn. I can share with you my LinkedIn and so on, or like Spiro Al Khouri. You're gonna find me or Spiro at the bakery, and then feel free to reach out to me, and then I can guide you through all challenges, and we can discuss and get some experts in the room to kind of help you as well.
Brilliant. No, thanks for coming on today. It's been a pleasure having you
sure.
on and talking something a little bit more
It's my
unique
pleasure
for
to be
the
here.
industry to listen to. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me.